Right now, our next guest is here to talk about something that I think is very important for our generation right now today. Her name is Kim Wilson, and she's here to talk about a book that she wrote. It's called The Abstinence Handbook for Women and Girls Throughout the World. I want you to grab your young ladies, bring them around the television, because she has some powerful tools for staying abstinence in this time. Please welcome Kim Wilson.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you, James and Regina. I really appreciate you allowing me to be a guest today.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Let's get right into it. People like to hear numbers.
Yes.
Tell us some statistics.
It's really bad. The Loretta Johnson Global Abstinence Project, which I'm the founder and director of, we focus on helping Black and Hispanic women to practice abstinence. And we're promoting it heavily because of just what you said, the numbers. First of all, it's wrong based on the Bible as a Christian, being a Christian, and you know, it's a sin to have sex outside of marriage, which many don't know. But it really is a life or death situation for Black and Hispanic women right now. It is killing them. Right now, about 70% of all new cases of HIV are Black females. Okay, so think of that every 100 new cases, 70 of them are Black females.
Wow.
Not only that, as far as single moms and out of wedlock births, 72% of Black kids are now born out of wedlock. Okay, as far as Hispanics are concerned, 21% of all new HIV cases are Hispanic women. And over 50% of their kids, of Hispanic kids, are born to single moms out of wedlock as well. Wow. So this is what's really devastating is, look at just the Black situation. You've got 70% of Black women that are dying from HIV. And then you've got 72% that are single moms. If they die off, our kids have no one that really wants to be there and take care of them, because most of them are being raised by single moms. And the same thing with Hispanic families as well. Over 50% only have the mom there. So if she dies, there's no one there for us. So then we begin to create a generation of orphans that end up, you know, having a really horrible future. And so that's why it really is an emergency situation. It's not just a suggestion anymore, it's an emergency.
Wow.
What are we missing?
Yeah.
What are we not teaching our kids?
You know what it is I think it needs to be a movement, and I tell people this. I think that the churches and ministries have got to come in together and really promote this in our churches and ministries to the women and girls in their church services, their youth groups, their women's ministries, singles ministries, whatever the case is. Go out into the community, door to door, and give out resources and handouts and things like that. We've got to come together, I think, to do that through churches and ministries. And I think that's really important in order to reach them and to be as effective as possible. And that's what my organization, the Loretta Johnson Global Abstinence Project, does. We actually give free resources, a book that I've written that's available in paperback and also an audiobook, and we give them to churches and ministries, which is the Abstinence Handbook. And they actually go and give them to the women and girls in their churches, youth ministries, as I said, go out and reach door to door, knock on the door and give them this information as to why they should practice abstinence to experience God's best for their lives. Many of them just have no idea it's wrong. They don't know how horrible the consequences are, and it really is. It creates a great deal of poverty. Like I said, the STDs are rampant in those communities. And so I really believe that we've got to make it easier for churches and ministries to really get out there and promote it. And that's what our organization is doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of devastating.
Yeah.
It is. And we need to make sure that our young people are educated. They might not want to hear, but if you can hand them something, at some point, you know, they'll go pick it up and they'll look at it and it'll pique their interest, and then it may cause their eyes to open. Even if they just have that book somewhere nearby to pick it up. Why did you write it?
You know, that was the purpose of it too, was to have something we could give them tangible. We could send them to the internet and say, go download, what have you, but we wanted it to come from the grandmother that's raising, you know, 5 out of wedlock babies that her daughter had, and she can barely make it, and the daughter's not there, being irresponsible. We wanted her to be able to say, hey, you know, daughter, here's this book.
Right.
You need to read it. You need to read it. Practicing abstinence is something you really need to do, and we've got so many situations like that. So we really did want to be able to have it in paperback as well as audiobooks and give them free so they can actually give it, you know, to the people. It's really interesting too, James and Regina, how things have changed when you talk about giving numbers. When you look at the research from slavery to 1920, the out-of-wedlock birth rate for African Americans was 10%. Okay? From 1920 to 1960, it was 20%. In 1970, it was about 35%. In 1980, about 55%. Then in 1990, it went up to about 67%. Now, as I said, in 2014, it's over 72%, and they still expect it to go up. So you can see why we've got to bring it back to the church, and we've got to really promote this, because there is hope.
It is.
Yeah.
Right there, you said something that is key.
As long as there's life,
there's hope.
There's hope.
Yes.
And she said there's hope. We want you to stay right there, because when we come back, we're going to talk more with Kim about some of the things that will help you and what you can do to curb this rate and these numbers. Let's bring these numbers back down. We're going to take you right now to the Heartbeat of Atlanta Live, and that's to the prayer room.
Amen.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Of course, again, our prayer partners are waiting for you. Whatever prayer requests that you have, they're there. The number at the bottom of the screen, 770-300-9828. I really want to get right back talking with our guest, Kim Wilson, about abstinence, because it's so very, very important what we teach our children. And I asked just briefly, Kim, what are we missing, and how, as parents, we could keep our kids, keep a balance. If we're too strict on our kids, when they get a chance to go out, they just run wild.
Right.
But if you're too lenient and just let them do what they want, they still run wild. They have no care.
Yeah, that's true.
What are we to do?
You know, that's really where I think you take it back to the Bible. You really have to say, this is God's way, okay? And you have to let them know early on that this is wrong, okay? This is why we shouldn't do this. Whether you're too strict on them or too lenient or whatever the case is, let them know that. Also, base it on their goals and consequences. Let them know, hey, you've got goals, you've got dreams. You don't want to go and deal with an unwanted pregnancy or HIV or AIDS, because that's going to mess up your future. So it's real important, I think, for parents to do that, to take it back to the Bible. Let them know what's right and wrong, as Christians especially. And then also let them know you've got goals you want to achieve. And that's one of the subjects I talk about in the book, is actually writing down your goals and things you want to achieve, and looking at that periodically to motivate yourself, for the kids to motivate themselves, and women and girls to do that. So you can see, this is why I should abstain from sex before marriage, because one day I want to finish college. One day I want to buy my mother a car. You know, one day I want to, you know, have a family and a husband, and not want for anything. So those are real good things to do as well. And I tell you some other information too, when it comes to basing it on the Bible and Christianity. It's so important, because based on research, over 80% of black people profess to be Christians. Same with Hispanics, okay? And if you look at the numbers too, 79% of black people say that God is very important in their lives. Whereas when you look at the statistics of the whole country, it's only 56% that say that. And blacks tend to go to church, and Hispanics tend to go to church and events, religious events, more than any other ethnic groups in the country. Yet, when it comes down to sex before marriage, and abstinence, they don't practice what God tells them to, based on the Bible. As Christians, they're not living what they should as far as right or wrong. So it's real important for them to know that this is what God says, you know, and this is a sin, and these are the consequences that can mess up your life. And if you look at Galatians 5 and Revelations 21, it says that this sin leads to hell. So, you know, you have to look at those things as well and let them know this is for real.
Oh, yeah, it's for real.
Yeah.
The Bible is real. And so are the consequences.
Yes.
Hell is real, regardless of what anybody wants to believe.
That's right.
So getting this into churches, is this what you want to happen.
Absolutely.
How can they make that happen?
They can simply request the book, either paperback or audiobooks, and we actually send it to them free of charge. And we ask them to give it out to women and girls in their areas, you know, in their churches, in their communities, what have you, free of charge, as a witness to them. And we try to send them as many as we can, based on the supply and demand and so forth. And again, we consider this something we're trying to get out there as much as possible and put it in the hands of women and girls, you know, particularly Black and Hispanic women and girls. So we do provide the resources free of charge, and we ship it free of charge as well.
Oh, okay, great. Wow. So there's no excuse.
No excuse.
You've got some
That's
free.
it.
You've got some free resources.
Yes.
Right here. So if they want to get it, website, do they email you? Do they call you?
They could go on my website, which is gapglobal.net, and they can simply request the resources there, or they can call me, which is, my number is 678-491-8583.
Okay, do you have an email?
Yeah, they can also email me at kimwilson125@att.net.
Okay.
And that there is also at the bottom of the screen. Her email and her website is on the screen as well. What can women do? Because we're in a society today where people are like, well, that's none of my business, so I'm not going to say nothing to that young lady or anything. What can we do? Or how much do we need to step our game back up to where if you're an older woman and you see a younger lady, how do you approach them? Or is there something that we need to do to say, hey, that's not right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know why? It's not a suggestion anymore. It's an emergency, and it's a life or death emergency. And that's what women now, older women especially, that want to minister and promote abstinence to younger girls. And older women need it too these days, too, to be honest with you. But because it's a life or death situation, I mean, it's killing us. It's the #1 killer of Black women between the ages of 25 and 34, okay? So it's not that I want to suggest, or maybe I shouldn't, I have to, in order to save Black women and Hispanic women, as well as having a better future, creating a better future for their children, and not destroying the Black and Hispanic families, because that's what it ends up doing. And we also work with churches and ministries overseas, in Africa and Asia, and our workshops are being done in about over 20 countries over there. And that's just been spreading like wildfire as well and going really well. And so they have a really horrible situation, especially in the sub-Saharan African countries. And over there, they have created a generation of orphans where they don't have enough adults to raise them, because the adults, so many have died due to HIV and AIDS. So when you've got that, and these kids are on the street, they're prostituting themselves, you know, they're in crime and so forth, which we see a lot of here too. And you can see how in the African American and Hispanic communities where it's headed in that direction. So it's urgent, it's an emergency. So, you know, just overcome the fear. Say, guys, this is wrong based on the Bible. It's killing you. It's destroying your kids' future.
We have a minute left. I want to ask you one quick question. When you're talking about women, you said that there's a part in your book, Don't Blame the Men.
Yes.
Talk to us about that. We got about a minute left.
Yeah, that is a big subject, and a lot of people see that, but there's a section in the book that's called Stop Blaming the Men. Women do that too much, especially Black women. You know, well, he doesn't take care of the kids, and you know, he never pays child support and whatever. You know what? Stop blaming him, because it was your fault that you uncrossed your legs, okay? And that's what my grandmother used to tell me. You know, honestly, Kim, it's your responsibility to keep those legs crossed, not the man's, okay? And, you know, unless you're being raped or sexually abused or something, that's different. And there's also sections in the book about dealing with that. But it is the woman's fault in the beginning. It really is, because it's her to say no. It's her responsibility to say no and let the man know, I'm serious about this. Also, for them to stop tempting men. You have a lot of issues with that. You know, tempting the men in a whole lot of ways that they do that. And to begin to want the best for men and promote it to them. You know, practice abstinence so you too can have a better future and experience God's best for your life. So yeah, I think that's real important for women to stop doing.
Wow. That's good.
As always, time goes so fast when you're having a good conversation. Kim, I want to thank you. We want to thank you
so
most
much
for joining us.
Thank you for
giving us information about something that's so important, for our generation today.
Thank you so much.
Cassie Adams is coming back. He's singing Grab the Love.
Amen.